Welcome to Solutions with Courtney Anderson. I am Courtney Anderson, and today we have a show. Specifically, we have episode 185. 185. This is our 185th show of Solutions with Courtney Anderson, and this is one of the management magician series shows. And so management magician series is what it sounds like to a certain extent when we see those who step up, who volunteer to serve as managers, often managers and leaders. And they are so talented that it literally looks like magic when you watch it from the outside. So you'll see people doing their work. You don't see a lot of yelling and arguing and fighting, and you don't have whining, and it's amazing. Things are getting done. They're getting done well. People seem like they're pretty content. They're collaborating. They're communicating. You've got really high retention rates. You have very low conflict and problems. And how does that happen? It looks like it's magic. Okay, so that's what we're talking about, those management magicians, and so we have a whole series sharing some of their secrets, right? And also talking to those who aspire to be management magicians, or maybe who used to be management magicians and fell away from that classification, and they'd like to come back. So that's what we're doing. We're talking about those who serve our organizations in leadership positions as managers, and sometimes they're also executives and leaders, and sometimes they're just managing. But no matter whether you're managing and leading, managing is the resources to sort of get stuff done, and that in a defined manner, so specific departmental goals, things of that nature. The leadership is the vision, big picture. So not just these immediate short-term deliverables, but where are we going big picture? Who are we as an organization? Things of that nature. And so it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it when we do these programs. I do want to note that if you stop by courtneyanderson.com, that's our main website. So it's got our blog, it has a companion show to this, which is our video television show. This is obviously our audio show, and we've got articles, we've got links, we've got upcoming material about webinars and education programs that I'll be presenting, and different opportunities for us to be of service to you individually and to your organization. And we do have an opportunity. I must ask that if you are on courtneyanderson.com, that you check out our show sponsors. You'll see different ads and links to different products and services. If you have the time, click on some of those, and if there's anything that you think, I absolutely been looking for something like this, please go ahead and make that purchase from one of our show sponsors. That's one of the ways that we're growing the infrastructure for the business, so that we can continue to provide this program, which is provided 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. So here we are, you and I, and we're in our Management Magician series on episode 185 of Solutions with Courtney Anderson. What specifically are we talking about today? What is it? Our show topic today is, I love being a leader, yet I am lonely. Is it really lonely at the top? So again, our show, which of course I do want to ask if you have the opportunity to access our show through one of our distribution partners in iTunes and Stitcher, and we're literally adding new partners almost daily. So wherever you access our program around the world, if you can leave a rating or review, if you found it to be constructive or thought-provoking, please do so. And share our program on your social media. That's one of the things that would really mean a lot, and I am grateful to you for being here, and that you even considered this request. But if you do go the extra step and share one of our programs on your social media, I would definitely be in your debt. So thank you for helping us grow the program. As we mentioned in our show topic, I love being a leader, Yet I am lonely. Is it really lonely at the top? This is certainly a show that individually I relate to very well. And I often spend a lot of time discussing, why we don't like to do absolutes and why we don't like to give quote the answer to a lot of the questions and things that we discuss in the programs, because often there isn't an answer. We're talking about ethics, we're talking about interpretation, we're talking about these types of things. I mean, it's there are there are a variety of different answers, or a variety of different ways to arrive at the goal that we are focusing on, which is, of course, surpassing our individual and collective goals. So I often try to avoid absolutes, but I'm gonna do something a little different here. So the show topic is, I love being a leader, yet I am lonely. Is it really lonely at the top? Yes. I avoided the absolute. I avoided my normal practice, and I just gave you an answer. Yes, it is lonely at the top. Yes. And as I said a bit ago, that I individually understand this, and it's something that you don't hear it discussed enough, which obviously is one of the reasons we're doing the show, and we're continuing to add more content and provide more resources in these areas, because there's so much focus, right? How to get to the top, how to get the promotion, how to get that, how to make that happen. I want to be a manager. I want to be a senior manager. I want to be an executive. I want, which is normal and healthy, and that's a lot of what we're focusing on, just simply because the numbers, right? You're always going to have a larger number of people who want to sort of climb the organizational or corporate ladder than you have that are in those positions, just the numbers of it. So that makes sense that more people are going to be asking, how can I get there, instead of being there and asking, uh-oh, I hadn't really thought about this part. And we actually have a show series that I would mention that somewhat relates to this somewhat. We have a show series which is called our satisfaction saturation series, that if you haven't checked out, I'd ask you to look at it. And it basically is talking about it from the entire perspective of someone who's surpassed their goals. So not that they're a manager or leader, but they're financially independent or whatever, that once you get on the other side of striving, it presents a whole other set of questions, right? So how do you not become complacent? How do you adjust to a life where sort of all your needs and most of your wants are met and not become impatient? So check that series out, although it's not specific only to management and leadership, but it definitely in some ways addresses some of these issues. So again, we don't have to talk about this really. I've taught in business schools at universities for since the 1990s, and I'm honestly sitting here thinking, we don't have there's not a sort of a part of the syllabus usually where we're talking about even in our graduate classes, loneliness once you achieve those aspirations of climbing the ladder, and certainly that's something that definitely I'm gonna put forward as a suggestion. And again, I sort of violated my practice of not liking to give quote the answer and give these absolutes, because this is a real serious issue. So on CourtneyAnderson.com we have a show page for every individual show, obviously. So come to that, CourtneyAnderson.com, and episode 185, and you're going to see a link to a couple of resources that I located to help us kind of understand that it is an issue. Yes, it is lonely at the top. So it's not your imagination. It's not, I thought it was just me. Nope. It's not something that's, related to some part of our globe. It's not something, I thought it was just because I was in New York City or, Miami or, Albuquerque. Nope. It's a global issue. So on this show page, you'll see some links. I'm going to read some quotes. Here's a quote. And this is from an Australian publication, right? It seems that the higher up the corporate ladder one travels, the more lonely the journey. If left unchecked, This loneliness and sense of isolation can severely limit executive careers, and in the worst cases, it can be a precursor to depression and self-harm. Anecdotally, it is widely recognized that careers can be curtailed as chief executives burn out, suffer psychological exhaustion, turn to alcohol, or in the worst cases, have a complete emotional breakdown. And then the article shared some experiences from some individuals who've been through this, right? Not some of these really difficult and as we said, gravely serious outcomes. And they were sharing their journey back to health. And the quote continues on from the same Australian publication, BRW. It says, the most important thing is to be proactive and to keep asking yourself and keep inquiring about your own sense of joy and happiness at work. Oh, I have to say, when I was, reading this research and looking at the show notes and everything, one of the fundamental principles of all of my programs that we have a show series on is the joyful art of business, practicing the joyful art of business. And I've, explained that in those shows, and when we talk about that concept, that what I'm really discussing is this issue that you can't only focus on how much money you make and how everyone else is really impressed with how well you're doing and everyone else thinks you have a great job, because if you don't ask yourself, how do I feel? Right? And do I feel, more often than not overall, so not every second of every moment of your, awake time are you going to be in ecstasy, but in general, how do you feel? And if you feel bad, then it's a warning sign. It's a serious warning sign. I mean, it is like a flashing, red light with a sign, stop, danger, warning. And I talk about that constantly, obviously, because it's one of the principles of everything that I'm doing in every one of the programs in these in my education, through my organization and seminars and speeches, through our e-resources, through my teaching, that this matters immensely. And so obviously when we were looking at this and the show and I'm doing the research and I read something that is exactly pointing out my point, right? Why I created that whole concept, right? The joyful art of business. This is it. And so on one hand, I feel, yeah, I'm vindicated. Yay. On the other hand, I also feel more motivated. I really have to work much harder to get the content in these programs out there, because we have to help people, and because these things aren't discussed. There's so much focus on the sort of the anticipatory state, right? Oh, I want to get that promotion. I want to make my goal of becoming a manager and then climb the ladder. Great, that's wonderful. I mean, that's a lot of what we need to do. Obviously, as we mentioned, there's just more numbers of people, population-wise, that need that assistance. But what about the group that we've told and encouraged and cajoled to do this, and then they do it, and then they get to the pinnacle of what they expected would be awesome, and then it's awful. Well, a lot of it is because of what the whole reason that I came up with this joyful art of business concept, because people to forget about it, and you're so busy. Well, everyone else thinks it's wonderful, and I'm the the top executive, or we did this or that, and all this, and yeah, I get it, that's important. But if you don't remember you the human, disaster. And the concept of loneliness is something that people think it's a joke. Oh, it's lonely at the top. You should have been ready for this. I don't know what you're complaining about. You're so lucky. You're the manager. You're the leader. That is, first of all, inaccurate. That feedback where someone says that, how dare you complain? Because you're not saying you don't enjoy being a manager or leader. In fact, the show is entitled, I Love Being a Leader. That means I'm not complaining about my job. What I'm complaining about is the awareness that there's a consequence that's really harming me. And I need to see what solutions are available. And in many instances, people are caught off guard by the loneliness because they didn't see it coming. You spend all your time on this other part, right? My skills and my networking and my results and my track record and my resume and my CV, and you're doing all this other stuff, and no one even talked to you at all. Like I said, I've been in education and business schools, like since the 1990s, and this is not on most of our agenda. As we're teaching, organizational development, or we're teaching ethics, and we're teaching management skills and critical thinking and all. There's a lot to do. So we're so busy on the content that I don't know if the message gets out to people that part of the package, if you go for this, is not just how the wonderful part, that it's exciting to have challenges and the problem solving and the ability to have more responsibility, and potentially you're compensated, uh, but that you can really be unprepared for how lonely and isolated you are. And the challenge, part of one of the things that had brought the show to the forefront in terms of scheduling it, was I read a piece recently in the New York Times where somebody was sort of writing in a column where they asked questions about work, and they were basically saying that they have this job and they have to go to these meetings, whatever, fine, everyone has to go to meetings at some point in some uh, form. But the person said that their boss, right, that it's a nonprofit agency, and their executive director spends these meetings uh, talking about his children and sharing a slideshow. And I put a link to the what I'm referencing in the show notes, so you can sort of see. It's just a short little question, but it's one of the things that sort of made me realize I really do think we need to talk about this show. We've been on the potential show list, but I thought maybe we need to move it up a little in terms of timeliness, because I just I don't have any evidence that if somebody's saying that their boss is spending a meeting, uh, talking about their kids, apparently even using a slideshow about their kids, which is not related to the work, right? Just sort of their own personal thing. My first thought when I read that question, because like I said, I've been teaching in business schools, and then more helpful in terms of understanding human nature. As I've shared in the programs, one of the reasons I started any of my speaking or corporate training or any of this is because I was a lawyer at my law firm, and I was taking cases, representing individuals, and as part of the working on the case and discovery, I was finding out that some organizations, some big organizations, right, and well known, were making really poor management decisions. Some of it just basic stuff like documentation and progressive discipline, but I also started to see other issues. Like I thought, wow, is this maybe there's more education that needs to happen so that people don't do these things, because then they'll know that's not a good idea. So that was sort of what started me down the path of education. And one of the things I did and I've done and I still do to a certain extent, but not as much as I used to. I used to spend, not an exaggeration, but 250 days a year traveling all over the world. What was I doing? I was going to client organizations. Doing what? Conducting training and corporate education programs and some consulting. So that's what I'm doing. And I've gone to big, huge global multinationals, and I've gone to small organizations and startups. And this is what I do in all different types of industries. And so on my website are many of the clients that I've worked with in my client list, so you can get a feeling. So I've been doing this, and I've seen it. I've seen this thing where the manager and leader, and again, many managers are leaders, not all, but many. So sometimes they're one person is both, right? I've seen this where the person is just, oh, here's my personal life, and here's this about my family, and here's this about my dog, and here's this about whatever. And often what my interpretation is it's loneliness. That's the first thing I thought when I read the article. And the question is not much of an article. It's a short little column, but somebody saying, hey, look, my boss is making us sit in these long meetings. They're half-day meetings, and spending this time talking about their kids and showing us slideshows and stuff. Now, the first thing you think is sort of that stereotype when for those of us a little bit older, the technology's changed, but the idea is the same, right? When you used to go over to somebody's house for dinner, and then you sit there and they'd show you their slideshow of their family vacation. Well, it makes sense because you're socializing with them. So yeah, and it may be really long because they want to show you every single thing they did, right? That's kind of the idea, I thought. And if it's at work, of course it doesn't make any sense because we're thinking it's at work during the workday, and taking your staff and making them sit there for half a day, and most of the time you're sitting around talking about your kids and showing slideshows. The first thing I thought is loneliness. And one of the reasons I said that this show sort of resonates with me is it's something, again, that you don't you don't really think about or talk about or prepare for. So when you're so busy with your content and your applied knowledge and gaining experience, and you're working, you don't really add in an analysis that if you achieve what you set out to do, if you surpass that goal, there's a very high probability that you're going to have a situation of somewhat extraordinary loneliness and isolation. So I'm happy that, like I said, part of what I've been doing, what I'm trying to do, what I'm going to continue to try to do, is talk about what I've coined the direct Florida business. But this whole idea of you have to measure and be vigilant about how your return on your time and your work with your emotions and your feelings. Because if you don't, you're going to set yourself up for some of these really bad outcomes that I just read them. I mean, really, exhaustion and alcohol and substance abuse and emotional breakdowns and self-harm. I mean, these are not, it destroys the entire. It's so upsetting because you know how much time and effort goes into just gaining the opportunity to be a manager, and all the sacrifices of time and resources that people put into to be able to achieve this. And instead of it being sort of this great thing that they anticipated, in some ways it is, but then they didn't, because nobody told them. They weren't prepared for this loneliness, isolation thing, and now all these really horrible things happen. People's entire lives are destroyed, and people can also destroy their organization. Take their organization down with them, right? So, again, it's motivated me to just triple my efforts. I must work much, much harder, because I don't know why we're not having enough of an understanding and emphasizing that, yeah, reach for that brass ring, because, certainly, prestige and economic opportunities, and be aware while this is happening so that you can plan ahead. And as the quote I read, you said, be proactive. So if you know that this is a likely outcome, then you can do a lot to try to mitigate it or prevent it, at least diminish it. But if you're not at all planning for it and you're sort of blindsided and it hits you out of, then you're gonna be weak because you didn't have anything that you'd built up to help counter and prevent this. Now, the reason I said I read the little blurb about the manager, director, whatever, spending their time showing their kids pictures is because it's when you think about leadership and management. Let's do just management. So let's say I'm a manager, I'm in charge of a team. I've got 20 people, so I'm not. It's a good size, but it's not, overwhelming. I don't have, I don't have 20,000 people. Okay, so I've got 20 people, and you think, yeah, that's nothing. All right, here's the deal, though. How many of those people are going to be your friend in terms of you being able to go to them and talk about your fear, your concern, something that happened in your personal life? And every one of us, we're all human, right? I talk about this in so many programs, our intrinsic value. And just because we're a manager doesn't mean that we're not devastating when something happens, in our romantic life. We're not frightened by some potential health issue for us or one of our loved ones. It doesn't mean we don't have all that. We have all of that. But what we've done by removing ourselves from the sort of peer team member group and making ourselves manager, now we don't have anybody to talk to about it. When you're peers, that's who you talk to often, right? How much time do we spend around the world in our work environments and with people we work with? It's incredible amounts of time. And I don't think necessarily that's necessarily, quote, good or bad. I think you should have a balance. But often, okay, when you're not a manager, who do you talk to? You talk to the people you work with, that you're friends with, not all of them. You're not making them sit around, but you have lunch together, you're hanging out. Many times you socialize with people that you work with. That's who you're talking to. Who do you talk to when you're the manager? Nobody. Because now you're the manager. So when you're talking to people, then it's work related. Now, when it's break time and lunchtime, the same time that you normally would have spent when you weren't manager, hanging out with people and just socializing and talking about their kids, talking about your dog, talking about your parrot, talking about their vacation, all this kind of stuff. Now it's lunchtime, and if you want to come and have lunchtime with them, that's fine. But here's the deal: every time that you're around, they're going to remember and treat you as manager. So they're not going to relax with you and tell you all their personal business because you're the manager. So you're in the position of authority. And the truth is, if you want to go and on break and on lunch and sit around with everybody else, now you took away the ability for them to actually relax, because they can't relax when you're there because you're in charge. And I know that and that's the problem. It's not all of the wonderful opportunities and the great things about being a manager and a management magician that I truly believe in. Right? So I'm encouraged this. I love it. Hey, this whole series is to acknowledge and reward those. It's inherent in the structure of management that you can't turn it off. So you can't go and, okay, I'm manager. Oh, it's break time. It's lunch. Let's go hang out. I want to be friends. I want to talk to you about what happened. I'm scared of what the doctor said. I went last week. You can't do that because you're manager all the time. And this is something I just drive home when I do corporate education programs, right? The whole thing about, hey, you're always the manager. So even if it's a holiday party or an after work social event, you're still the manager. So you can't do these things where you use language that's inappropriate, or you want to get around and party with people, because you're going to have harassment problems, you're going to have lawsuit problems. You're the manager all the time. Now of course, you can wear casual clothes if you're out doing a social event or whatever people you work with, but you're still viewed as a manager. And it's inherent in that. And I do a lot of analogies in our Management Magician series and our other business series. We talk about leadership management outside of work. So I talk about families all the time because it seems to be easier. So take a family. This is years ago now, before I started all these other interests where I was corporate training and research and business and everything. I had my law firm, right? So practicing law, and I'm a general practitioner, which basically means that I'm a small business. So if you have sort of a general sort of common legal issue, I can handle it in most areas. If it's a very specialized area, then I'm going to send you to a specialist, somebody who only does that type of appeal or some sort of really narrow, more sophisticated area. But if it's a general issue, criminal, general issue, family law, general issue, wills and estates, of course I can handle it because it's sort of general and not sophisticated. It's just sort of a basic legal issue. So I was sitting in my office, and it was somebody who was talking to me about what their problem was, and what they call a consultation. So I was, it's private, confidential, and then we're determining if they want to hire me, or if I want to, have them as a client. And the person was talking about they had a child, a teenager, I think like somewhere around 13, who had been arrested for using illegal drugs. And so I'm listening, and so the person is the parent, right? It's the father. And he says something along the lines of, I never wanted to be a dad. I wanted to be a friend. And I'm listening. And then he basically describes that he set up a system because he loves to, use illegal drugs, and he likes to party, as he said. And so he was explaining to me that he explained to his child, we're going to use drugs together, which they do. And but he said he explained to his child that this is just, we're doing this here, like, it's safe at home, and we're partying together, we're using drugs and everything, illegal substances, and abusing legal substances. And so he's, quote, getting high with this kid. And so he's explaining that, yeah, he didn't want to be a dad. Dads are, I'm sort of interpreting my own idea, that I think what he meant was dads are managers, right? The dad is in charge. The dad's the one that says, no, clean your room, no, you can't stay out late. He didn't want to be that, because that's not, in his mind, I guess, fun. He wanted to be a friend, and so that's what he did. He had his kid, and I don't remember how young the child was when they started using drugs together, but it was young. And I will tell you, if you go out and you do your own research, you're going to see a really common, this is not something that's just as one person. This is a really common perspective people have, who say, I quote, partied or had fun with my kid. And you'll read little kids, and kids will say, I was 5, 6 years old, and my parent, gave me alcohol, got drunk with me, use illegal drugs with me. This is not rare, unfortunately. Now, my personal opinion is that if we talk about all the time, you volunteer to be a manager, right? So if you don't want to be a manager, or you don't want to be a manager outside of work labeled dad, I'm not saying anything about that. I myself don't have my own children. So, for a variety of things in life have happened, and my point simply is that if someone doesn't want to be a dad, then don't be one. Then you don't have any problem, of little kids you're using drugs with, and you don't understand. You told your little kid, yeah, we can use drugs together, which we are doing, but don't use them with other people. It's a child. My point is, I don't believe children should use alcohol at all. excessively getting high. I just don't think it's healthy. There's a lot of research on this. I do understand the argument the adult was making in my law office that they didn't want to do this. They don't want to manage. They just want to have fun. I get it. Then don't manage. And if he was not a dad, then he wouldn't have this problem. Now he'd have another problem potentially with abusing alcohol and substance and illegal drugs, and legal drugs, prescription medications often a huge problem for people. But he wouldn't have a problem with a little kid doing it. His problem, the reason he was in my law office, is because a little child had uh, been found to be using illegal drugs, which of course makes total sense since the parent, taught them to do that and did it with them. And was angry though because now there's all this hassle, right? Now there's law enforcement and juvenile corrections and court and all this kind of stuff, and that's why the person was mad, right? And just couldn't understand why. And he said, "Hey, I'm partying with them, but I meant we're gonna party here. I meant don't party, without me or whatever." And can't understand why a 13-year-old doesn't, understand that. I actually did not take that case. It didn't work out that was going to be a case I'd be able to be the most effective lawyer on, or any case similar. Partially because I just don't do enough in juvenile criminal cases to feel comfortable taking on a sophisticated case. And so my point is, if you don't want to manage, don't manage. If you want to be friends and hang out with people, then you can't do that and manage. You're the parent. I get it. You want to relax and have fun. We all do. If you're an adult, nothing, in part of the world where you're allowed under the law and practice to reasonably use alcohol, then do that. I myself, publicly enjoy my wine. I enjoy a nice glass of wine, my meal often. Okay. If I had a child that I was responsible for, then no, I'm not going to use alcohol with a child. Period. The structure of being a manager outside of work or in work, inside of work, it does take away these socialization and fun time, because the people you would have had fun with, you're not going to be able to. And if you come to their fun, at their break and their lunch, and I'm the manager, but now don't call me manager here. I'm here to have fun with you guys. No, you're not. You're the manager, and we all know this. You're the one that signs off on our performance reviews. You're the ones that has the ability to take away our livelihood. We know this. Everybody knows it. So don't pretend like we're all here hanging out and that I can tell you about my personal fears and things that are happening in my life, and that you can come to me and tell me about your fears. If you do this, if you go to people that you manage and you tell them all your real fears and apprehension, then you've destroyed your credibility as a manager. It's like an analogy of a parent going to a little kid, right? So the parent goes to their 9-year-old and, starts crying. I don't know. I don't know if I can pay our bills. We're probably going to be homeless. I can't do it. It's so hard, work and the people drive me crazy, and I'm scared all the time, and I don't know if we're going to have any food to eat or anything. And now that kid is freaked out. One of the things we talk about in Management Magician series is creating that safe environment where people can trust each other, trust the manager, the whole thing, that there's stability. You go and you tell a little kid that there's no stability, and you don't even have a clue if you're going to be able to do anything. You're sitting up there crying and hyperventilating and drooling all over yourself, and you can't do it, and you're scared, and that kid is totally dependent on you. One, you've completely scared them to death, and you've also diminished in their eyes that you're in charge of anything, that they can trust you to help make it better, take care of things. Like, you're just laying there crying. And I'm not saying that you don't cry. I cry, you cry, everybody cries. CEOs cry, parents cry, everybody cries. Everybody's overwhelmed, everybody's scared. All I'm saying is we have to select when and where it's appropriate for us to share that part of ourselves. And I don't think a parent should ever go to their kids and just tell their kids, I'm out of ideas. We are doomed. I am scared to death. I have no plan. Better to say to the kids, you know what, everything's okay. Or I'm working on it, or everything's all right, and then, redirect them to something. Why don't you read a book, or something? But you don't tell them everything's falling apart and because then they're scared. Then they're scared because they're dependent on you. You're the leader. Lead. And I understand there's times when you're so scared and you yourself are overwhelmed that you just can't do it. That's when you go to the quiet place. Oh, I'm going to take a nap now. And then you go there and hopefully they can't hear you, or maybe they're at school or out with their friends, and then, then let it all out and freak out. But then when they're back, hey, yeah, everything's okay. I took a little nap, feeling better, because you're responsible. You're in charge. And it's the same thing at work. So yeah, I get it. It is lonely. Of course it's lonely. It's built into the system that all the people, especially if you used to be a team member and now you're promoted and now you're the manager or leader or leader, then it has changed. Go to the show page. Again, CourtneyAnderson.com, show 185. Okay. This is from Harvard Business Review. Okay, so reading in the links on the page, just a piece. It says, often dismissed and rarely discussed. Many CEOs are plagued by feelings of isolation once they take the top job. So now we're talking about a manager who's the top manager, the top executive. Findings from our inaugural CEO Snapshot Survey reveal that half of CEOs report experiencing feelings of loneliness in their role, and of this group, 61% believe it hinders their performance. First-time CEOs are particularly susceptible to this isolation. Nearly 70% of first-time CEOs who experience loneliness report the feelings negatively affect their performance. Stop right there. Why? Well, it makes sense. First time. We just talked about that. So I wasn't CEO before, and even though you were some type of manager, you still had more peers, right? There was still a group of people when it's break time and lunchtime you go talk to. The other vice presidents, the other, people that are in your district level management or whatever it is. You had peers, your group where you could go hang out and be peers, and now everybody can share equals because we're, peers. You had your group. You weren't totally by yourself. The first time you step up in a job where not only are you manager and leader, but you're the senior manager and leader, there's no other peer in that organization. There was only one of these jobs, and you have it now. 70% of first-time CEOs who experience loneliness report that the feelings negatively affect their performance. Of course they do. Because you used to have a group of somebody you could talk to and let your hair down, quote unquote, the idea that you can be you and relax and, hey, yeah, it's so hard being vice president or whatever. Now you don't. And if you're in the same organization with people that you used to hang out with, now you can't any longer. Just like, I'm sure if we did a study, I'm not sure, but I suspect, let me put that out there more accurately. I suspect my hypothesis would be that if we asked first-time parents, right, or first-time step-parent, somebody comes in and the kid's already a teenager and you've not been a parent before, now you've got a 12-year-old, that it's really difficult to deal with that thing about, can't we be friends? I don't want to be your stepmom. I don't want to be stepdad. I don't want to be dad. I don't want to be mom. You are. This is your job. You're not going to be able to hang out and be friends and best buddies because somebody's in charge and somebody's the leader and the manager, and it's you. And it's hard if you haven't done it before. And it's really hard if there's nobody else to talk to. Now, of course, many people would think, well, who cares about how the CEO feels? They're lucky enough that they got to be CEO. I hear that. And that's why I said that's part of the problem, I think, with having a safe place to even discuss this stuff. I'm going to go finish the rest of the quote from Harvard, that Harvard Business Review piece. So back to the same, on the show page, you'll read along. It says, these feelings are not limited to CEOs. Uh-oh, that's what we're talking about. Managers, not limited to CEOs. Okay, so it says these feelings are not limited to CEOs. In fact, loneliness and its repercussions can affect any individual with new-found authority. Exactly what I was just saying. And I'm finishing up the quote. Anyone who has stepped into a new leadership role knows that the less than positive feelings that come with authority are often unexpected. CEOs and other leaders go to great lengths to maintain a facade of unflappable confidence, concealing any insecurities or feelings of anxiety. But this cycle creates dangerous problems for both leaders and the organizations as a whole. Of course you want them. I just gave that advice. I said to the parent, don't tell your 9-year-old that everything's a disaster and you don't know if you're all going to be homeless and starving tomorrow. Right? I said put on that facade of confidence, right? I'm taking care of it. I'm on it. We may have to make some changes, but everything's okay. Because that is the most important thing you're giving them, right? They already believe in you. but you're the conduit for all these things, whether they're an adult and you're the manager. Look, you're the one that says yes to that paycheck, yes to those benefits, yes to that promotion, yes to the continuing ability to work there, or no, it all goes away. And yeah, they're adults, but it's still frightening and scary. Imagine if they're little kids. When you're a parent in a family, it's all of that with the fact that they're 9 or 10 years old. What are they going to do? If you can't find a way to provide shelter, how are they going to do it? So yeah, your job requires you to convey to everyone that's on the team that it's okay. Yes, there's a disaster, but I'm handling it. I'm doing my best. Okay, all right, you're in charge. You're in charge. You're taking care of it. That's your job. They know you don't. They know you're not, you know, an actual magician. But like I said, they believe in you. So yeah, they understand that the company's in dire trouble. You've explained it. You've communicated the financial situation. But the people who are there and hanging in with you, they believe in you. You're going to turn this around. We're going to make it happen, right? Same thing with the family. The kids are like, okay, well, it's tough now, but stepdad said we're going to be in this situation for a while, but he's going to make it better. And they believe in that. They believe in you. So that means you can't sit there and take off your facade and show them that the truth is you're terrified and you're freaking out, because then they don't have anything to believe in, and there's nobody else that's there that can like step into your job. You are it. You're the parent. And if you're a single parent, then you really are it. You are that it. So when I read these quotes and I get really passionate, it's because the things we're talking about are just devastating, right? All these negative outcomes, organizations destroyed, people destroyed, self-harm, and it's because, again, I don't think we talk about this. Yes, that's why I changed my normal policy and I gave you an absolute answer. Is it really lonely at the top? Yes. And if you have another issue that makes you even more of a rarity, so maybe you're in a gender group that isn't normally in the CEO position, maybe you're in an age group that isn't, if you're underrepresented, okay, just sort of some of the traits, then it's going to be even lonelier. Because of course, one of the things you think, how do I fix this, right? Well, everybody needs friends. Now there's a link I put in the show notes to a Forbes piece it talks about 10 ways top business leaders avoid loneliness, right? And one of the things it says, spend time with your family and friends and all this kind of stuff. Hey, here's the deal. That assumes you have those. Many of the time, the sacrifices that it takes to, now we're talking about work, to get to be the manager, to be the executive, to be the leader, it takes a toll. And maybe you had a partner or spouse, and maybe they said, hey, I don't ever see you. And they left. Or maybe you never even found anyone that was able to make that commitment because you weren't able to invest that time in that part of your life because you put so much into your work. So, so go look. I included the Forbes piece because it may be helpful to you. But I read it and I thought, well, this all assumes you already have all this stuff set up. That you have some family, whatever that means. It could be a spouse, it could be a best friend, it could be, some pets. I don't care what it is. But if you don't have any of that, then to say to you to go spend time with it, well, then duh. If you had it, then you would have been doing that. That's sort of the first thing you would have done. Before you freak out at work and start crying or showing people your pictures of your kids, you would have done that at home first. The challenge is if you work so much, you're almost never, not at the office. And then when you are at this place you call home, there's nobody there but you. There is nobody for you to talk to. And maybe you talk to your parents or your best friend or your sibling, and maybe they've passed away or something happened to them. So maybe when you remove your support systems, the challenge, I think, like I said, this resonates with me in some ways is that other people look from the outside and think you don't need any help. You don't need help. Look at you. You have a fancy job. You lead whatever. You don't need any help. And they diminish. And in some ways, it's not intentional, and I don't think people even think about it like this. But I think people look at stuff through their own lens. So if someone's not, attain their own expected level of professional success, and they look at you and they listen to you and they think, well, yeah, you're complaining that you're lonely, but you own your own business, or you're an executive, or you're a professor, you are a lawyer, or a physician, an engineer, you have a successful a career. You're the vice president of that big fancy place, right? So why would I care? You have money, or you have more money than I do, or I think you have more money than I do, or you have prestige or whatever. So I don't care. And it makes it even harder then because it isolates the person even more, and it makes it more difficult because who is your friend? When you're CEO or you're, district manager, who do you hang out with? Now the easy answer would be, well, okay, you're CEO of that organization, but you hang out with other people who are CEO of other organizations. Well, that's the easy answer. Well, duh. What do you do though if you're CEO and there's not a single other CEO of another organization similar to yours that's at all like you? So maybe there are other CEOs, but when you go hang out with them, they're all, 2 decades in a different age and they're different gender, and there's literally not a single person who's a similar age or a similar gender or a similar religion or a similar ethnic background. It's just it's still you by yourself in a room of people that you don't have anything in common with in terms of being friends. Now you have tons of stuff in common with being CEO. That's why you can talk to them about work. But what we're talking about in this show is the loneliness. You need friends. You need people that you can hang out with and have fun and just be you and dance and be goofy and tell stupid stories and wear your, relaxing whatever attire that is, sweatpants or pajamas or whatever it is, and tell silly stories and just be you, just a regular person. You can't do that with somebody that you don't have anything personally in common with. Which means that a lot of the things that people are going to say, why don't you try this, only works if the people you would meet in that group are similar. A lot of the things you think stereotypically people did to have friends is they had country clubs and other social clubs that they were part of. Let's all go to the yacht club. Well, one of the reasons you go there is for the politics of it. But the other reason people joined all this stuff is because that's where your friends are. That's where the other people who are similar age and have a similar type of job with a similar type of responsibility and a similar type of loneliness, that's where they hang out. The problem is if you join that stuff and you go there and there's nobody your age, nobody your gender, nobody your ethnicity, nobody your religion, then you don't have anybody to hang out with at all. And you're just as lonely as you were to begin with. In some ways, you feel even worse. And that's what some of the demographic and global challenges are creating. I've seen media pieces, I know you have too, right? Where there's derision, literally, of people who are different ages, where, a young person, often in tech, but in other fields, has achieved a lot of business success. And people literally talk to them like they're like a child, like an idiot. Now, nobody can control our age. I can't control my age at this second or 10 years ago, or if I lived tomorrow, then I can't control any of it. Neither can you. And yet people do that, talk down to people. Imagine how that makes somebody feel then. So they can't control their age. They're proud of their work has succeeded. Now they're doing this stuff, and then everybody talks to them like they're not intelligent or capable. And the other problem is, who do you hang out with? Because the other people your age are nowhere near similar work problems. It's so isolating. And like I said, a lot of the things that I think warded off this isolation were built into the system intentionally. That's why you had all these private clubs, and again, the yacht club and the social club and people built all of that so that, hey, I have a very unique situation. I'm a senior, professor, and I have all this pressure, and I'm lonely, right? I can't hang out with my students because of all the reasons I can't do that. But I go hang out with other people who have similar jobs, and maybe they work at different places, and we all have these clubs together. And it worked for a long time because people were all about the same age or similar, and they were all similar gender, and they were all similar religious background and similar ethnicity, and so that's why they built those social outlets so that they would have stuff to do and then people to hang out with and have fun with. Those are their buddies, right? Let's go do golf or yachting or whatever it is we do, and that still can work for some people. You're still going to have to step up and go to that stuff. And you're also going to have to be trusting enough to find a real friend, a personal friend, who's not a competitor business, so that you don't have anything like that where they're going to try to use your issues against you, but somebody you can really turn to and trust. I do want to, in a positive way, speak that lawyers have associations are required to join for licensing and other reasons, but they have magazines and things that they send out to us, these mandatory groups, bar associations. And I think, and I can speak it certainly to the Texas bar, has done a good job of, in the last couple of years, really trying to mention these issues: isolation, loneliness, depression, resources for help, and set up groups where you can go, you can do it anonymously, or you can do it where you're guaranteed, as much as that can be guaranteed, that you're going to Have other people, you're a judge, there'll be other judges that'll be in this group that are there just to talk about, mental health challenges and substance abuse challenges and loneliness and stuff. And because it's hard, not only because a lot of these things are regular, everybody has a regular problem, loneliness, fear, all that. But when you couple it with these really unusual jobs where you have an intense amount of pressure and you're able to do the job and you enjoy it, that's why you signed up for it. But it's hard to explain to somebody who doesn't understand the pressure of it. And from the outside, again, you'll get feedback from people who will say, well, I don't understand what the argument is. What's your problem? You're a judge. What's the problem? Like, really? Yeah, because they've never done anything like that and they don't get it. You talk to somebody else who does it, they're going to be able to, oh, I totally understand exactly what you're talking about. Oh, yeah. And you need that. And again, we said it's a numbers thing. There's so few people who reach these levels of management and leadership to begin to even understand what this it feels like. And then as you've changed things, right, I believe for the better, right, by opening it up so there's not so many barriers to people, but you start to open it up to talent and drive and say, hey, I don't care about your age or your gender or your ethnicity or your religion or whatever, if you're the disability or special ability or whatever, I don't care, like, right, talent. When you do that, though, you put different people in situations where they have no access to any kind of built-in way to have a friend. And then when they do try to find somebody who might be their same age or who might be their same religion or might be their same ethnicity or whatever, those people often will be really negative to them and say, I can't believe you're complaining. Look at you, fancy, accomplishment. And they won't be able to relate to them as a friend because that's going to be a huge obstacle between them. There's perceived and sometimes actual difference in accomplishment and professional issues. So it can be really, really isolating, which is why when I said I moved this show up in the schedule because I thought we needed to get to it as soon as possible. So what do you do? Okay. The answer's pretty obvious, right? You need to find people that you can just be you with. The easiest thing is you need to find people who have some sort of similar pressures and then have some other similarities as a person so that, it's hard to be friends, the person's, 30 years different age and different gender and different background, everything. It becomes really hard to be just friends and just hang out and talk about this life. One of the things that I think is starting to happen is you're starting to see, even though their numbers are small, you're starting to see the people who are entering these jobs who might be from a non-traditional background networking amongst themselves to set this up. Like I said, I gave an example of lawyers are doing, I think they've been doing a pretty good job the last couple of years. They've done more and more to publicize and make it an issue and say, look, we get it. There's a private place where you can come talk to somebody who does a job like you do, and you can just be a friend and they can try to get you help. Because by the time, of course, you're abusing drugs and alcohol and, or food or anything, or hurting yourself, you need extra help, right? But to prevent that, we need to build ways for you to have some kind of communication with people who are similar. And one of the things that I'm super excited about is literally something like this show and the technology, because it might be that in your part of the globe there aren't that many people with similar jobs and they're similar to you, so they could be your friend. But in the whole globe of 7 billion people, yeah, there's going to be somebody. So dialogue like this, and I'm going to try to do more to set up opportunities to put together, online and in-person opportunities for people to network, right? And not network like I want to get a job. So this isn't a networking thing like I aspire to do this because that's really popular and it already exists. We have tons of that. I'm talking about like for people to be friends. And one of the things I'll mention anecdotally in my own life, as I said earlier, this resonates with me a lot, this show, is that I honestly sat down and thought about this like you would any other, task, definitely a goal or a business task. And I said, okay, the challenge is I need friends, and I'm not going to be able to have them anything where I'm any kind of manager or supervisor or any type of authority role. And I want people, like any of us, even when you're friends with somebody, you need something that's in common. It doesn't have to be much, but a little bit, right? So, whatever, if you're similar ages, often you at least, even if you don't like the same music, at least you're familiar with the same, musicians, like you've heard the same stuff. So I thought, okay, well, if someone's similar to my age, it would be helpful to have a mixture of different genders. If I spend all my time with, one gender, not mixing genders, then it limits me to, relate to people. So, I thought about where would those people be? Okay, well, it makes sense. Some of this is simple, right? Like, well, some of the professions or credentials I hold, people would be in some of those groups. So I went to some of those kind of volunteer or meetings that weren't totally related to any, uniquely business thing I was doing, but okay, it's a thing for lawyers. Might be other people that's similar to me. Sure enough, that's kind of worked. I've met people, similar age, sort of similar, fun, and then I can be friends with, and and that it's set up that they don't, we might have similar training and licensing, but we don't do work at all that's similar. So there's no kind of thing like, oh, I wanted that job. We don't even do anything. We're totally different. So that makes it easy. And you'll see this. You'll see this. Just think about it. You'll read about something in the media where people who are famous athletes hang out with some other famous athletes. Well, part of it makes sense because you have similar lives. People who are, musicians hang out with other musicians. Again, it sort of makes sense why. Because that's the person who somebody else might say, well, how can you complain? You're a famous musician. You get to travel around the world. And you're thinking, well, yeah, I've been away from my home. All I see are, hotel rooms and stages, and it gets really lonely. And it's, there's like, the rush of the show, and then I'm by myself, and it's, it makes me vulnerable. Only somebody else who does that will really get it. Other people will be so caught up in, must be nice to be on stage, must be nice. And they don't get it. And they can't open up their heart to have that compassion and understand that yeah, you're a person and you have really specific and real issues. So the best thing to do is what we just said, right? It's why you see supermodels hang out with other supermodels. They might not even necessarily like each other that much all the time, but at least it's somebody who gets it. It's somebody you can talk to who's like, oh, I totally understand what you're saying, right? Anybody else you talk to is going to say, how can you complain? You're a supermodel. You're famous, and this and that. And no, they're not going to listen. So some of this sounds goofy, but you kind of see why people do this, because who else are you going to talk to? The challenge is that there's small numbers of people in all these types of things, right? So there's small numbers of managers, or small numbers of supervisors, or small numbers of executives, or small numbers of people who've accomplished whatever, uh, higher level of accomplishment in whatever field. They're just small numbers. And some of us think, well, I don't want to, be around, people that are so similar, but the thing is, you really don't have a lot of options. Now, you can be friends with somebody you may have a similar interest. Maybe you have some sort of hobby or sport or, fun thing you do, and you meet other people who do that. The problem is sometimes when you'll start something like that, and my own anecdotal experience, and then you think, oh, this is great, it'll be a great friend. And then the more they know about your life, they start to, this thing comes up where if their life isn't exactly what they might feel it should be, then even though you had this sort of really great, thing in common, they're, oh, that's where you live, oh, that's what you do, and then now they don't want to really be your friend anymore, and now you're kind of back to square one. So you want to do your interests, your hobbies, your fitness, your volunteer, whatever, bowling, golfing, yachting, I don't care, whatever it is you do. But you also want to remember that there might be someone that you meet that you think that could work, and it would have worked, but it'll be an obstacle to them that you've accomplished what you've accomplished, and that's going to put you right back in the lonely place. So you got to spread this effort out and be really aggressive about it. One of the things I've found, I've worked in South Africa, and I worked in Mumbai in India, and I'm at these events, but they're they're international events, but they're about people who are really dedicated to human resources or management, experts. And even though we might be from different parts of the world, we get along really well because we do the same thing. So we can sit around and hang out and, yeah, you traveled there, me too. And did you work there? And me too. And oh man, I'll tell you this airline. And because we live the same type of life, and I've made friends that way. So you got to make it a priority. And of course, along the way, whatever definition of family, whatever definition of your community of caring, I refer to it on many shows, and I say those are the people that their test is, what makes your happiness is their happiness, right? But you got to find that, and you got to maintain it. You got to make it a priority. So one of the things when you work all the time, you'll sort of slack on it, and the next thing you know, the people will say, well, I wanted to be in your community caring, but I haven't heard from you in 6 months, and they're right. You got to prioritize this stuff. You have to understand, back through the quotes and the notes on the show page. This is literally your life. Self-harm, they're mentioning, destruction, abuse, suicide. Like, this is everything. And all the hard work and all of the sacrifice and all of the effort is going to be nothing if you destroy yourself and you end up, in jail or in a hospital. You have a complete mental or physical breakdown, abusing drugs and alcohol. If you destroy your organization, I mean, it's all ruined. It's all ruined. It was for nothing. It's for naught. So even though it might seem like it's not that important, I'm arguing this. It is the most important because it's your health. And you do matter. And you're a fun, cool person. I know that. partially because you're in our community and you're on the program, but I just know it anyway, right? Your people who work with you that are team members that look up to you, they can't see that because you're in charge. But I know how fun and cool you are. And when you're able to prioritize this, and then you find the people and you find the organizations and you find the groups, then you prioritize it and you stay in touch and you put it on your calendar just like you would a work thing. Hey, it's time for me to check in with that person. It's time for me to set another social event. And you force yourself to do this. And I tell you, the fun and the joy of it, it's so worth it. You're not alone. You're not really isolated. You have so much responsibility in your day-to-day life, and there are few people like you, but it doesn't mean they're not none like you. You just have to work much harder to get to know them, and then you got to be really kind. And of course, you have to be a friend to have a friend. So you have to treat them and show them that their happiness is your happiness, and be there for them. And it's a lot of work, but it's worth it. And I guarantee you, now that we've shared a little bit on this, and you see some of the data that I included in the show notes, that you see how serious it is. And you know what? The fun, goofy, and the scared, overwhelmed, freaking out part of us, they're when we provide that conduit, we have that person that we can call when we're scared and we can cry, or sit with, or spend time with, or go out and be again goofy, whatever your goofy thing is, and just be us. It's awesome. It's just extra difficult because, as sort of a side effect of all of the work accomplishments or the accolades or whatever it is that you've accomplished, it's created, this an ability for you to access most of the people that you're around in those ways. So you're around people, but you can't be anything but, leader, right? And in a family, as we close, right? So parents are stressed or overwhelmed, they go find other people to hang out with, other adults. And then and sure enough, it lifts that weight off of you, because you're stressed out. Oh, I'm a stepmother. I'm stressed out. I'm so stressed out. And you talk to someone else, a stepmother, and she's like, oh, that happened to me too. And now you realize, see, it's not you, and you feel less lonely. And now you have someone to talk to and laugh and tell stories with, who understands it and see. And if it's not anybody that you can locate that's physically anywhere that you can get to, then you're going to do some things over the internet, right? And talk or Skype or chat or whatever. And then you're going to invest in these relationships so that you can build them in your life. And I don't care how far away they, are on the globe. I don't care if they're on the space station. This is everything in terms of your life, and you must prioritize it. And again, when you find people, then you have to put the work into it. Put it on your calendar. You have to be a friend to them, right? So they can cry and scream and freak out with you and be goofy with you, right? And nurture it. But this is it. This is your whole life. And I really hope that you took this show as an opportunity to begin to invest in yourself, because, we already mentioned, and I don't want to dwell on it too much, but neglecting this is, it really honestly is not an option. All right. So, thank you for being here in our program. Yes, we all might experience a little bit of these challenges, but through this program, like I said, I'm going to do what I can to set up some more opportunities for us to provide through our infrastructure opportunities for people to network and meet and support each other. But let's do this. And if you're totally at a loss and you listen to this and thought, I still don't even know where to start, reach out to me, send me an email, reach out to me, come to the website and contact me, and I'll do anything I can in my power to try to think through what we can do to get you moving in the right direction. But we got to do this. Okay, because it's okay that it was lonely at the top, because you still like to be at the top. We just got to get you other people that you can relate to, and then you're going to invest in yourself and have some friends, and it's going to be great. It's just sometimes takes a ton of work, and that's okay. That's okay, but we will address it. There is a better option out there. All right, thank you for being part of the program, and as always, I do encourage you to come by CourtneyAnderson.com. Thanks.